The anomaly appeared on Helios's scanners at 0300 hours, adrift in the emptiness between Proxima Centauri and Earth's outpost on Kepler-186f. Nadia, Cole jolted awake to the gentle but insistent ping of her comm unit. Xenolinguistics specialist. To the bridge, came Captain Royce's steady voice. We've found something ... unusual. Nadia's fingers fumbled with her uniform as she dressed in the darkness of her quarters. After 3 years studying non-human communication patterns aboard research vessel Helios, unusual still made her heart race. When she arrived at the bridge, the main view screen displayed what appeared to be an escape pod, its design unlike any human craft. Origin? She asked, brushing sleep-tousled dark hair from her eyes. Captain Royce, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair and perpetually narrowed eyes, shook her head. Unknown, but there's life inside. Faint biosignatures, nothing matching our database. Commander Mercer stepped forward, his muscular frame blocking Nadia's view momentarily. Could be a trap. The Vega conflict taught us that lesson. Or it could be a refugee, Nadia countered. Permission to join the retrieval team? Hours later, Nadia stood in the quarantine bay as the sealed pod was carefully opened. The being inside lay motionless, suspended in some kind of gelatinous stasis fluid that evaporated upon contact with Helios's atmosphere. He, at least, the form appeared masculine to human eyes, had skin the color of burnished copper with faint, luminescent patterns that pulsed beneath the surface. His features were hauntingly human-like, yet unmistakably alien. Vital signs stabilizing, Dr. Abernathy reported, her eyes never leaving her scanner. Remarkable. His cellular structure is regenerating simply by exposure to our oxygen mix. The alien's eyes opened suddenly deep indigo irises that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. His gaze locked with Nadia's immediately, and she felt a strange sensation, like fingers brushing against her consciousness. "Can you understand me?" she asked softly, stepping closer despite security protocol. No response, not even a flicker of recognition. "Try the universal translator," Mercer ordered from behind the quarantine glass. Nadia activated the device, which cycled through greeting patterns from 200 known species. The alien remained, perfectly still, watching only Nadia. "I don't think he's going to respond to the translator," she said finally. "But he's aware. He's listening." Dr. Abernathy consulted her database. "Based on tissue samples, I believe he's Varlian. They were thought extinct after the nebula collapse in the Andromeda sector." "Varlian?" Captain Royce frowned. "Weren't they empaths?" "More than that," Nadia whispered, unable to break eye contact with the silent alien. Their entire communication system was based on emotional transference, no verbal language. That night, after the others had left the alien now called Specimen V in the ship's logs, to rest in the quarantine chamber, Nadia returned. She found him sitting perfectly still, his luminescent patterns glowing softly in the dimmed lights. "My name is Nadia," she said softly, placing her palm against the clear barrier between them. "I want to help you." The alien whom she couldn't bear to call a specimen mirrored her gesture, placing his hand against the barrier opposite hers. For an instant, she felt a whisper of emotion, loneliness, caution, and beneath it all, a faint but unmistakable hope. She decided then to call him Talon, after an ancient star in Varlian mythology. She didn't know why the name came to her mind, but somehow she knew it was right. Beneath the surface, his neurological patterns are completely foreign to our database, Dr. Abernathy announced, her voice tinged with frustration as she studied the holographic display of Tylen's brain activity. "I've never seen anything like it." Nadia watched silently as Talon sat motionless on the examination table, his indigo eyes fixed on her rather than the team of scientists circling him like Vultures. 3 days had passed since his discovery, and despite every scanning device and translation protocol available on the Helios, they'd made no progress in establishing communication. Perhaps he's cognitively impaired, suggested Commander Mercer. Arms crossed over his broad chest. The stasis pod could have damaged his neural pathways. No, Nadia said firmly, drawing surprised glances. He understands more than we realize. Captain Royce raised an eyebrow. That's quite an assertion without evidence, Specialist Cole. It's not just a feeling, Nadia insisted. Look at his eyes when we speak. He's processing, analyzing. And those bioluminescent patterns beneath his skin change, subtly depending on who approaches him. Interesting theory, Dr. Abernathy conceded. But until we establish some form of communication, Central Command wants him transferred to the research facility on Europa Station. Nadia's stomach tightened. Europa Station was notorious for its aggressive experimentation on non-human entities. When? 2 weeks, that's our new destination. That night, Nadia couldn't sleep. The thought of Talon being treated as a laboratory specimen at Europa Station haunted her. Breaking protocol, she used her linguistics specialist clearance too. Enter the secured medical bay, where they kept him. Talon sat in the corner of his containment room, the luminescent patterns across his copper skin pulsing gently in the dim light. When he saw her, the patterns briefly flared brighter. "Hi," she said softly, approaching the transparent barrier. "I'm sorry about all this." To her surprise, Talon rose and approached the barrier, placing his palm against it just as he had that first day. His eyes held hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. Making a decision that could end her career, Nadia overrode the containment field protocols. The transparent barrier between them slid open. "I shouldn't be doing this," she whispered, more to herself than to him. Talon remained perfectly still, watching her with those depthless eyes. Slowly, she extended her hand, palm up, in a gesture of trust. After a moment's hesitation, he placed his hand in hers. The contact was electric. Images flooded her mind, a planet with twin moons, crystal forests that sang in the wind, and then darkness, fire, screaming without sound as millions of minds were silenced forever. She gasped and nearly pulled away, but Talon's grip tightened. Slightly, not threatening, but pleading. "You're telepathic," she breathed, but only through touch. His expression didn't change, but she felt rather than heard his response. "Yes." "Why haven't you communicated with the others?" The images shifted humans. In military uniforms, Varlians in cages, laboratories filled with pain, fear. "They're taking you to Europa Station," she told him. "I don't know how to stop it." His free hand rose slowly, hesitating before gently touching her cheek. The connection deepened, and she felt his emotions as clearly as if they were her own gratitude. Trust, and something warmer that made her cheeks flush. "Help me, Nadia," his mind whispered against hers. The ship's alarm suddenly blared, startling them both. Nadia quickly closed the containment field as footsteps approached. "What are you doing here?" Commander Mercer demanded as he entered, eyes narrowing suspiciously. "Linguistic observation," she replied steadily. "I believed a quieter environment might encourage communication." As Mercer led her away with a stern warning about unauthorized visits, Nadia glanced back at Talon. For the first time, his expression had changed, a slight curl of his lips that might have been a smile. She knew then that she would do anything to keep him safe, regardless of the consequences. Touch of minds, the ship hummed with activity as the Helios altered course for Europa Station. Nadia had managed to secure permission for daily communication attempts with Talon, carefully concealing their growing connection from the watchful eyes of Dr. Abernathy and Commander Mercer. In the privacy of the observation room, with surveillance cameras conveniently malfunctioning, Nadia sat across from Talon, Their hands linked as his consciousness flowed into hers. "Show me more about your world," she whispered. The images came gentler now that he understood her mind, better sweeping landscapes of his homeworld. Varlia, with its crystal spires and bioluminescent forests. She saw Varlians dancing beneath. Aurora-filled skies, their skin patterns creating mesmerizing light displays. "We were peaceful," his thoughts whispered. Until they came. The images darkened massive warships descending, firing weapons that targeted not bodies, but minds. The Varlian empathic network, once their greatest strength, became their downfall as the psychic shockwaves spread like wildfire through their connected consciousness. "You survived," she said, squeezing his hands. "I was away studying the outer moons. When I returned, I found only silence where once millions of voices sang." Tears streaked down Nadia's cheeks. "I'm so sorry." His fingers brushed the moisture from her face with fascination. "Your species shows pain outside the body." "And yours?" In answer, he guided her hand to his chest. Beneath her fingers, his luminescent patterns swirled in complex, darkening spirals that somehow conveyed profound grief. "Nadia?" Captain Royce's voice crackled over the intercom, making her jump. "Report to my quarters immediately." She reluctantly broke contact with Talon, a severing of their mental connection, leaving her momentarily disoriented. "I'll be back," she promised. In Captain Royce's quarters, Nadia found not only the captain, but also Dr. Abernathy and Commander Mercer, waiting with grim expressions. "We've received new orders regarding the Varlian," Captain Royce began without preamble. "His genetic structure contains elements that Central Command believes could revolutionize their telepathic soldier program." Nadia's blood ran cold. "Telepathic soldier program?" Dr. Abernathy nodded enthusiastically. "If we could harness the Varlian's empathic abilities for our military personnel, we'd have an unprecedented tactical advantage." "You're talking about weaponizing him," Nadia said flatly. Commander Mercer stepped forward. "We're talking about utilizing a valuable resource. The cameras in the observation room may malfunction, but the biometric sensors don't. We know you've established contact." Nadia's heart pounded. "I've made progress in understanding his nonverbal communication." "Cut the act," Mercer interrupted. "Your neural patterns synchronize when you touch him. You're sharing thoughts." "That night, Nadia slipped into Tylen's chamber after disabling the security protocols, skills she'd quietly acquired over the past week. "They know about us," she said urgently, taking his hands. "They want to use you to create weapons." His expression remained serene, but through their connection, she felt his fear and resignation. "It has happened before. My ancestors were hunted. For the same reason. I won't let them have you," she vowed. His hands framed her face, and the mental connection deepened beyond anything they'd shared before. Suddenly, she wasn't just seeing his memories, she was experiencing his emotions. Raw and unfiltered. Loneliness that spanned centuries, grief for his lost people, and something new. A growing affection for her that transcended species and language. Instinctively, she leaned forward until their foreheads touched. In that moment of complete connection, his skin illuminated with patterns she hadn't seen before, whirls and spirals of brilliant azure light. "This is how my people show love," his mind whispered to hers. "We have 3 days until we reach Europa Station," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm going to find a way to free you." His response flowed through her like warm honey. "Whatever happens, you have awakened something I thought lost forever." As their lips met in a kiss that bridged 2 species, Nadia knew she had crossed a line from which there was no return. Shattered chains, the plan was simple but dangerous. Wait until the ships. Night cycle, disable the security systems, and take one of the emergency shuttles to the Oasis outpost in the Kuiper Belt, where refugees and dissidents sometimes disappeared from Alliance jurisdiction. Nadia had spent the past 2 days carefully gathering supplies and downloading star charts without raising suspicion. Tonight was their only chance. Tomorrow, the Helios would dock at Europa Station Dot as the ship's lights dimmed for night cycle. Nadia made her way to Tylen's chamber with a stolen security pass. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she disabled the containment field. Ready? She whispered. Taelon nodded, his luminescent patterns pulsing with anticipation. She had smuggled him a standard-issue jumpsuit to replace the medical gown he'd been wearing since his arrival. They moved silently through the corridors, avoiding the skeleton night crew. Nadia's security clearance got them through 3 checkpoints before they reached the shuttle bay. Almost there, she breathed, reaching for the bay door controls. Going somewhere, Specialist Cole? Nadia froze at Commander Mercer's voice. He stepped from the shadows, phase pistol leveled at Talon. You're making a terrible mistake, she said, positioning herself between the weapon and Talon. The mistake was yours, Mercer replied coldly. Betraying your species for an alien. He's manipulated you through that telepathic link. You don't understand what he is, what his people were, Nadia argued desperately. They were healers, philosophers. The militarization of his abilities would dishonor everything his civilization stood for. Step aside, Cole. That's an order. She felt Tylen's hand on her shoulder, gentle but insistent. When she glanced back, his eyes held a determined gleam. She hadn't seen before. Trust me, his mind whispered to hers. Before she could respond, Talon stepped forward. His skin began to glow with increasing intensity, patterns shifting into configurations she'd never witnessed. Mercer's eyes widened as his pistol arm began to tremble, then slowly lowered against his will. What ... are you doing? Mercer gasped. His face contorted with effort as he fought against the invisible force controlling his movements. His people weren't just empaths, Nadia explained, understanding dawning as she witnessed Tylen's true power. They could influence nervous systems when necessary, a defense mechanism they used only in the most dire circumstances. Mercer collapsed to his knees, the pistol clattering to the floor. Tylen's skin dimmed slightly as he approached the commander, placing gentle fingers against the man's temple. Mercer's eyes rolled back, and he slumped unconscious to the floor. He will sleep. No harm done, Talon communicated, his mental voice strained from the effort. The ship's alarm suddenly blared. Security breach in Shuttle Bay 3, announced the automated system. All personnel to battle stations. They've discovered us, Nadia said, punching in the code to open the shuttle bay. We have to go now. They raced to the nearest shuttle. As Nadia initiated the launch sequence, the bay doors began to close. Hold on, she shouted, ramming the thrusters to maximum. The shuttle shot forward, barely scraping through the narrowing gap into open space. Behind them, the Helios loomed large in the view screen, its pursuit vessels already launching. Nadia's hands flew over the controls, plotting a course that would take them through an asteroid field where the larger ships couldn't follow Dot as they accelerated away from the Helios. Talon placed his hand over hers on the control panel. The connection between them surged with a mixture of fear, exhilaration, and something deeper, a bond that transcended the physical. Whatever happens, his mind whispered, we are free. The stars stretched into brilliant streaks as they jumped to FTL. Speed, leaving the Helios and Europa Station far behind. Worlds Between Stars Oasis wasn't a planet or a moon, but a massive hollowed-out asteroid hidden in the debris field of what had once been a mining colony. From the outside, it appeared to be just another chunk of space rock. Inside was a thriving community of refugees, dissidents, and beings who existed outside the rigid structures of alliance, law. 3 months had passed since their escape from the Helios. Nadia and Talon had found shelter with a group of xenobiologists who had defected from Alliance research stations, unwilling to participate in the weaponization of alien biology. Their small dwelling was sparse, but private of converted storage. Unit with a viewport that offered a stunning view of the starfield. Nadia sat cross-legged on their bed, facing Talon as they continued their daily ritual of shared consciousness. "I'm getting better at this," she said, smiling as she successfully projected an image of Earth's ocean into his mind. "You're natural. Empathy makes you an apt student," his thoughts replied, tinged with pride. Few non-Varlians have achieved this level of telepathic projection. Their mental connection had grown exponentially since arriving at Oasis. With daily practice and the absence of fear, Talon had begun teaching Nadia the rudiments of Varlian. Telepathy. To her surprise, she had shown an unusual aptitude for it. "Do you ever regret coming with me?" she asked, the question that had lingered in her mind for weeks finally surfacing. Instead of answering with thoughts, Talon's skin illuminated. With the azure patterns she now recognized as affection. His hand gently cupped her cheek, and she felt his emotions flow into her contentment, belonging and love so profound it brought tears to her eyes. "You are my home now," his mind whispered. "The last of my kind has found his people in you." Their peaceful existence was interrupted by an urgent knock. Dr. Elise Jensen, one of the defector scientists who had welcomed them to Oasis, entered with a worried expression. "Alliance ships have been spotted in the outer sector," she announced. "They're searching methodically through the debris field. It's only a matter of time before they find us." Fear clutched at Nadia's heart. "They're still looking for us?" "After all this time? Not just you," Eliza clarified. "There's been a shift in Alliance policy. All non-human refugees are being recalled for registration and tracking." That night, as Oasis's residents debated evacuation plans, Nadia and Talon stood before the community council. "There's another option," Nadia said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Talon and I have been working on something an extension of Varlian empathic abilities." Talon stepped forward, his luminescent patterns glowing with determination. "My people once used our collective consciousness to shield our entire planet from detection. I believe we can adapt this technique to conceal Oasis." Skepticism filled the room until Talon raised his hands. The patterns on his skin brightened until they were almost blinding, spreading outward like ripples in a pond. One by one, every being in the room felt a gentle touch in their mind, not invasive, but inviting. "Join with me," his thoughts resonated through the collective consciousness of everyone present. "Together, we can create a psychic barrier that will bend light and energy around Oasis, making it invisible to Alliance sensors." What followed was unlike anything Nadia had experienced, hundreds of minds linking together under Talon's gentle guidance, forming a psychic web that stretched outward to encompass the entire asteroid. Through their shared connection, she felt the moment the barrier snapped into place, a shimmer of energy that rippled through space itself. Hours later, they watched from the observation deck as Alliance vessels passed directly by their location without slowing. The ships continued their methodical sweep of the sector before finally jumping to FTL, leaving Oasis untouched as the community celebrated their narrow escape. Nadia and Talon slipped away to their private viewport, hands entwined and minds gently touching. "What you did today," Nadia said softly. "It's just the beginning, isn't it?" Talon nodded, his expression serene but determined. "The Alliance believes the Varlians are extinct, that our knowledge died with my people. But through you, through all who are willing to learn, our ways can live on." "A sanctuary," she whispered, the vision forming in her mind as clearly as if it were already reality. Not just a hiding place, but a center of learning. A place where humans and non-humans can share consciousness, understand one another without words or translators. Where no one needs surrender their will or identity to be understood, Talon agreed, his mental voice resonating with Hope. as they gazed out at the stars. Their minds and hearts intertwined. Nadia realized that what had begun as an escape had become something far more profound, the first step toward a new way of existence, where the boundaries between species dissolved not through conquest or assimilation, but through understanding and love. In the vastness of space, on a hidden rock that Alliance charts would never show, the seed of a new future had been planted, a future where no being would ever have to whisper, "I'm yours to command, just spare me." Instead, they would simply say, "I understand you, and in that understanding, find freedom."